Cool. How's it going, buddy?
Good, man. Good.
Yeah. What are
Good.
you
Yeah.
up to?
Man, it's doing a lot of wrestling, a lot of coaching, a lot of MMA. I mean, that's pretty much my life right now.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
at what capacity are you coaching right now? Because did you coach high school at one point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, I coached when my son was going through his high school years, and then I coached a little bit over at Fairmont Athletic Academy. That was like 3 years ago, 3 years ago.
Okay.
So, and then now I'm just doing my wrestling club and my wrestling camps and training some fighters and doing some motivational speaking engagements and all of that. So
Okay. Now, are you
yeah.
still in and out of Kings, or how is that situation? Is that where you're at?
Sometimes I go in there. I mean, some other guys come and train with me sometimes, but I'm not going there to train the guys over at the gym anymore. No.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. And then now with California to coach high school, do you have to be a teacher? Were you a teacher at one point?
No, you didn't have. No, you don't have to be a teacher. No, you could
Gotcha.
be a offsite, an offsite coach. Yeah,
Okay. And were you the head coach? You said Fairmont, and then what was the other school?
yeah, Fairmont. Yeah,
Okay, Fairmont. Gotcha. And
yeah.
how long did you coach there for?
Say 2 years.
Okay.
Yep, 2 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. When did you when did you get in the UFC?
Oh, I believe 2008.
Okay.
I
And
started
how many
fighting in 2007, and then I got into the UFC after like a year training. Yeah. So
Okay, so how did you get into the UFC after a year? I mean, obviously you were a national champion, you had those accolades. Was it just
yeah.
because the sport was so new? Was you couldn't get fights, or what was the circumstances
No,
there?
no, I had a great team behind me.
Okay, okay.
Uriah Faber had a management company that that where they managed me, and it's called MMA Inc. And
Okay.
they helped me out. Mike Roberts and Jeff Myers.
Hmm.
They're just incredible, amazing individuals, and Uriah is like a brother from another mother to me. So
Yeah.
uh, so they provided a way for me to and the contacts and to be able to I actually I had to take care of my end. I had to win, but at
Right.
the same time I had to train and compete. And so after about 10 months training, I got accepted a fight, and then a year later, um, a year later, I had 3 fights underneath me. Then got into the WEC, and then the WEC got bought out by the UFC, and then I was one of the select few that got brought into the UFC after they
Gotcha.
acquired the WEC. So,
Gotcha. So it was just a real like a perfect storm there with that.
hmm it
Now
was
what
because if the UFC didn't acquire the WEC, it would have took a longer time for me to get into the UFC.
mhm.
So I guess the UFC liked me and a few other guys. Michael Bisping was there. Uh,
Chael,
Ri- Chael Sonnen,
Stan.
Brian Stan. Um, there was
Was Tim Kennedy in the WEC, or was he Strike Force the whole time?
no, he was Strike Force. Yeah, he was
Okay,
Strike
okay.
Force. Yeah,
Gotcha. And then Strike Force is the PFL now, right?
yeah,
Or okay,
yeah, yeah.
gotcha. Because Ray is a coach out here, Cepho. Yeah.
Resefo, yeah.
Do you know Ray?
I know Ray. Yeah, I know
Okay.
Ray. Yeah,
Yeah, super
Ray
good
trains
dude.
a lot of the guys in Vegas. Over at Extreme Couture and a bunch of other
Yep.
places. Yeah,
Yeah. So Ray's one of my coaches over here.
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
a good dude.
yeah, he's a
So
great guy.
so when did you graduate college?
I graduated college in 2001.
So what were you doing for those 7 years? Were you still wrestling?
So yeah, I tried out for the Olympic team until 2004, and then I accepted a job at UC Davis. Um,
Okay.
Actually, I accepted a job at UC Davis in 2003. So was still training, trying to make an Olympic team in Athens in 2004, um, and then Daniel Cormier was the one who won that, won a spot, who was my
Okay.
teammate, and then I just focused on coaching, and then that's when I met Uriah Faber, and then Uriah Faber was the one that got me into training for fighting, and that was a time where, man, I was teaching, coaching, I was getting my master's in sports psychology, and I had a wife and two kids, one on the way. I mean, there was a lot going on
Yeah.
at that time, and Uriah's like, "Man, you need to fight." I'm like, "Bro, I don't think I could fight, man. I don't have time." And
I don't have time.
Man, you'll make a lot of money. I'm like, "Nah, man, I don't think I could do it, man. Like, literally, I can't." And then um, he brought in the likes of Randy Couture,
Hmm.
Brandon Vera, Quinn Rampage Jackson, Tito
Yep.
Ortiz, Frank Trigg, James Irvin, Scott Smith, because at that time, there was like no training partners really, and so
Hmm.
those guys came in, and I believe Randy Couture was defending his belt against Tim Sylvia, and
Okay.
uh, and they brought me in and wanted me to work out with the guys, and I just been barely training, and I go in and everybody gets a partner except for Randy, and I end up partnering up with Randy Couture for the first time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm partnering up with this guy. Man, this guy's gonna knock my block off, right? And so, um, I started, you know, they Uriah was like, all right, guys, time to spar. And I'm like, oh shoot, this is crazy. So, I mean, I've only been training for like 3 or 4 months, and then I'm sparring them, and I hear Uriah, yeah, throw out your jab, and I'm jabbing him, and I'm like getting him a little bit, I take his head back a little bit. I'm like, wow, this is actually kind of fun, So,
Yeah.
and then I double leg him, I pick him up, and he scrambles out and gets on top of me. I scramble out of that, and it was just a lot of fun. And he controlled me on top for a little bit, and I got to the cage and like shimmied my way up, and reversed it on him, and he sat me down. He goes, "Hey, Mark, you need to really consider doing MMA."
Oh, really?
And then Uriah came. He goes, "See, I told you, bro." So that's when I really started like being serious with it.
Hmm.
So when I got serious with it, I got into the WEC because of my management and Uriah, and won. Why I think I won 3 fights in the WEC, and then got called up to the UFC. Yeah, so it was crazy.
How much time did you spend with Randy in those early days?
Mm, you know what? I mean, it was just with training camps and stuff. I didn't
Okay.
really train with him every day.
Okay.
I didn't, but he wrestled at Oklahoma State, and
Right.
he knew of me, and he brought me out sometimes to train with some of the guys. And Randy is just an awesome guy.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable, man. I love that guy.
Yeah. I've been around him a little bit. Obviously, I
Yeah,
trained at his gym, but
yeah,
he's in there here and there, but not a ton.
yeah,
But he used to coach at Oregon State, and obviously that's where I wrestled, and that's where your son wrestles now. And
yeah,
my interpretation of Randy is like he's everybody's big brother.
yeah.
Is that pretty accurate?
Pretty much, man.
Yeah.
Really is. I mean, he is like an older figure. Like a
Even if
man
he's your age, I
of
feel
wisdom.
like.
Yeah, he's like a man of wisdom.
Yeah.
He's got that kind of mystique almost. So,
Yeah.
but super awesome guy, man. Super awesome guy. Um, he's the type of guy I mean, yeah, I look up to him.
Hmm.
And he's just a prime example of how you should carry yourself.
Yeah.
Everybody in that, in that scene, in the MMA scene.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. No, I know. Just being around the gym, like when Randy walks in, it's like, oh shoot, Randy's here. Like, he could be standing next to Francis, and it's like, oh my gosh, you guys see Randy? Like, here, Francis, take our picture. Like,
Yeah,
that's the kind of presence Randy has
yeah,
still, and it's
yeah,
hard to do that, because usually when guys leave and they retire, MMA is so. I mean, it's like it's on to the next. It's always about what's next. A guy retires last month and they could have been the biggest star. And it's like, well, who's next? What's going on next? And
yep,
there's very few guys that transcend that time period. And I
yeah,
think Randy was kind of that perfect storm of he was the best in the UFC at the time when the UFC was like exponentially growing
yeah,
to a mainstream sport. And he was one of the first guys I feel like that really brought like a well-rounded skill set from like a master's background. Like he's a master in wrestling, but he was very well-rounded as well.
hmm,
Whereas, that 2005, I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems like, guys were you know, they either had one very strong skill set or they were, like a jack of all trades.
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. And he was at the time where I mean, he did boxing and he wrestled. So he was great at the striking and then great at the wrestling, and those are two arts that you get a stand up art and then you get
Yeah.
a grappling art. And then jujitsu comes in the realm, and then you learn how to do Muay Thai and all that stuff. But he had those two already on lock. So, and then now it's just learning how to deal with kicks, knees, and elbows, and then submissions on the ground, which comes easy after
Hmm.
you've learned how to like use your distance, in the striking on your feet, and then just position wise on the mat, where it comes to submission and stuff like that. So,
Right.
yeah, Randy, man, he was very strategic in his approach to MMA. I mean, he was very knowledgeable, and yeah, he was a pioneer of the sport for sure.
Did he ever come into the OSU room when you were there, or was he a little bit?
No, he
Was he?
did.
Oh, he
He came
did.
in. Yeah, he came in. Yeah,
Okay.
he came in, and I believe he came in like once or twice. But I was a smaller guy then. I mean, they, when I came to Oklahoma State, I was in high school. I won everything at 189 pounds. I won
Yeah.
everything. I won the state twice. Um, I went to the World Championships, took fifth at the Worlds, and I took second at Junior Nationals, and
Hmm.
should have won it. But anyways, that's not a sore subject. Um, but but yeah, I just I won everything there, and I when I went to Oklahoma State, I didn't have a spot at either 77s, 177s, or 190s.
Mm.
I had to get cut down to 167. I'm like,
Oh, geez.
and so coach goes, "Hey, you got to go 167." I'm like, "Oh no." I was like, "Okay." When John Smith tells you to do something, and that's my first time of being coached underneath him, I'm like, he's arguably one of the best American wrestlers in history,
Right.
and I'm like, "Okay, coach, if you tell me to do that, I'll do it."
Are
And
you
so
sure?
I'm like, "Okay," so I did it, and oh man, it sucks so bad. Like I did it, and I tried doing it, and just didn't work for me. So,
Mm.
um, but yeah, I mean, I remember Randy coming in, and me sucking down weight, and him going with all the heavier guys, and I'm like, dang, I wish I could go with him.
Right.
But I was getting my butt kicked by like all the smaller guys down there. So
So when you were wrestling in high school, did you gain much weight from high school to college? Like when you were cutting to 67, were you weighing the same or did you gain weight?
no, I was gaining weight. I was lifting. I gained weight. I mean, I was walking around probably about 205.
And
Yeah,
cutting to 67?
yeah, yeah,
Holy
yeah.
cow.
167. Yeah, but I mean, I guess coach thought I was chunky, which, I hold a little bit more fat than some other people.
Okay.
And so he's like, yeah, you need to cut down to 167. So I was like, ah,
Okay.
man. And
Okay.
I'm usually like, I'm not cutting weight. I'm just going to be where I'm at and wrestle
Right.
there. And I feel good there. And that's how I always operated. And then my last 2 years of Oklahoma State, I went up and I was ranked number one both years. Should have won it both years, but I won it 1 year in my senior year.
Hmm.
Hey, it is what it is. So you
Yeah.
just learn from those. You just learn from those.
What was the best you ever did at 67 when you were cutting all that weight?
I didn't. I mean, because I would make weight, and then those 2-day tournaments, you have to make weight again.
Yeah.
I mean, there was times where I was like 11 over, have to make weight for the night before. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, it was bad, man. I
Did you
just
even qualify at 67?
yeah, I qualified.
Okay, you qualified.
I took third. I took third at the Big 12s. I
Okay.
qualified, and man, the first day I I I won. I had a bye and then I won, so I made the second day.
Yeah.
But the I was like 10 over, and I had to
Oh,
make
jeez.
weight for the second day. So it was like,
Yeah.
so then my first match I lost, and then I rambled off like, because after your first match you're able to eat and drink and stuff like that, and so
Right.
because you only have an hour after you weigh in to rehydrate and all that stuff. And
Sure.
I didn't feel good, so after my first match, I mean, I rehydrated, and I was like 10 to 12 pounds over again, and I was feeling good and rattled off a bunch of wins, and I was top 12 in the nation my freshman year.
Yeah.
So, and that happened again my sophomore year. And then finally, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not cutting weight anymore. So I just lifted, got bigger, and actually, let me tell you this story. This is kind of funny.
Okay.
After my sophomore year, coach goes, "Hey, Mark, we need to get that rice cooker out of your house because you can't be eating rice all the time." I said, "Coach, I'm Filipino. That's what I grew up on." And he goes, "You got to get it out of your house. You can't be eating rice." And I go, "All right, coach." And he goes, they're changing the weight classes from 167 to 174. And I'm like, and then, or even 184. And I'm like, I don't know, coach. I want to wrestle 197. He goes, "No, we got a kid coming in that's gonna be, it's gonna fill in that spot." And I'm like, "Oh man, coach, no, I don't know if I could do that." And he goes, "Well, I'll give you a nutrition plan, and we'll go from there." And so I was like, "I don't know." So we debated for probably like an hour and a half, you know, him telling me, trying to convince me that I need to cut down, and I'm like, "Coach, it's not going to work. Coach, it's not going to work."
Yeah.
So, anyways, he's like, "All right, we'll revisit, after summer." Um, and then I got on this lifting schedule from the assistant coach there, Mark Perry. He gave me a lifting schedule,
Hmm.
and he's like, "Hey, lift here, do this, lift this." And I was like, "Okay." He goes, "You need to take some creatine. You need to take some HMB. You need to take some of this stuff, and make sure you take it with with your workouts." And I'm like,
Okay.
"Okay." So I did it, and I lifted. I mean, it was a 4-day split. Lifted everything from legs to upper body, and I ended up getting a lot bigger, right? And so uh, I come home a little bit early because JJ McGrew is trying to. This is the year 2000, which is Olympic year, and JJ McGrew is trying out for an Olympic team, and he wanted me to train with him because he heard I got a lot bigger, and so I came a little bit earlier. And when I came earlier, um, I was training with JJ inside the wrestling room, and Coach walks in, and he watches us for probably like a good minute or two, and he's like he didn't recognize me. He goes, "Munoz." He goes, "Munoz." is that you, Munoz? I go, yeah, coach, it's me. He goes, son, are you on steroids? I go, no, I'm not on steroids, coach. He goes, lift up your shirt. I lift up my shirt. He said, son, you been sticking a needle in your ass? I go, no, coach, I haven't. I haven't, coach. And, and, and he goes, hey, get on the scale. So I get on the scale. I'm 235. 235. And coach goes, you're a damn heavyweight. He goes, you ain't gonna make 197. Even you ain't gonna. He goes, you're a damn heavyweight. You gonna go heavyweight? I go, no, coach, I can go 197. And he goes, you ain't gonna lose all that weight. I said, yeah, coach, I will, and I can definitely get it off. He goes, what? He goes, damn, Munoz, you can't. I tell you, you got to get rid of that rice, So he's like all this, like doing, just ripping me a new one, right? And he goes, man, I don't know what to do with you. And so I was like, coach, I'll make 197. And so I made 197, and ended up being ranked number one. The guy who won it was Brad Varing, and I beat him 4 times that year. And
Oh, geez.
and then the very next year, I won it. So I just feel better, man. I feel better at because it was same day weigh-ins. It wasn't like the
Yeah.
night before weigh-ins. So like if it was night before, then it's a different story.
Right.
Kind of like how MMA is. So I cut down to
Yeah.
185, and that was a hard cut for me in MMA. But it was night before. So you could
Yeah.
rehydrate. You could,
When it's one weigh-in, that's the
yeah,
thing too. Is like
weigh-in, yeah.
guys, I feel like guys probably cut 10 or 15% more, maybe closer to 20% more than than in wrestling for MMA, because you just
Oh yeah.
that 24 hours. I mean, you don't see a ton of guys cut more than about 10 pounds for wrestling. They kind of maintain, because you have to maintain all season. With a fight, you've got to maintain for 2 weeks, and you got to cut out water for a day and a half.
I mean, in MMA, man, my weight would fluctuate bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I make 185. I was 240 walking around,
Holy cow! What
Yeah.
would you start so you'd start your camp at 240 and make 185,
hmm
and then what would you walk in the cage at
I'd walk in the cage about 220.
for
So I make
185?
185 and I gain 25 pounds. I mean, no,
Jeez,
35 pounds, 35 pounds. Yeah.
that's
Like
crazy.
all hydrate too. Like it would stick to me. It would
Yeah,
not come off, And so, so the new rules now where you can only gain 10% of your weight, I wouldn't have been able to fight.
yeah. Is
You
that
know,
so? What? Okay, so explain to me, what is the new rule for? I guess I just haven't heard about it. So you can only gain. They weigh you in the day of too.
so they weigh you in, and then people are telling me like they weigh you in, and then they weigh you in after, they weigh you in, and they weigh you in on the day of the fight, just to see how much you've gained. You know,
Hmm.
so and this is what I heard, and I've been out of the game for a while,
Sure.
but they said you can only gain 10% of your weight class to be able, to be able to fight. So
Okay.
yeah, so I can
So
only
if
gain
you're if
18
you're
pounds.
if you're a 205 pounder and you come in at 230, that's 10%.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
So from cutting all that weight, and now when you got to 235 and coach saw you, were you a little chubby, or were you like
No, I
pretty
was
lean?
pretty solid. No, I was solid, man.
Oh
Like
wow.
I was pretty solid.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people were telling me to go 205 because it would be better for me, but I was already ranked at 185, and I felt like I could win a world title at 185. And
Hmm.
which I felt like I could do too. So I stayed at 185, and I accepted fights on early notice. Which I shouldn't have, and but I was like, you know what? If they're gonna bring a fight to me, I never said no. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, let's go. And so you know, I mean, the worst weight cut I ever had was for Chris Weidman. I accepted a fight on 6 weeks' notice, and I was weighing 235, and
Really.
I cut 50 pounds to make 185. And so that was in 6 weeks. That was bad. I mean,
Yeah.
after that cut, I mean, um, I my I had cankles, man. Like you can press on my skin, you can press on my skin. I had like 1 inch indentions in my skin because of all the liquid, because my kidneys couldn't process or couldn't, you know, get rid of all the water I was drinking. You know,
Yeah.
so it was bad, man. It was bad. I mean, I was
No,
walking around and I felt like my skin just kind of jiggle a little bit from my legs. I was like, man, this is kind of weird, you know.
mm,
So, and that would happen to me sometimes. It
really.
was crazy, yeah. So they call it pitted edema, and because your kidney shut down, you know. So, um, yeah, it's crazy.
No, was the Weidman fight? How many fights did you do after Weidman? Because
Uh,
that was like the big one, right? It was like if you win, you're going to fight for a title. If Weidman wins, he's going, right? And
I mean, there
then
was a few times I was like that. I mean, I fought
yeah,
Weidman, I fought Lyoto, I fought Gegard Mousasi, I fought. Um, I mean, who else did I fight? There was a lot of times. I mean, there was like 4 or 5 times where if I won, I was going to fight for a title. So I was ranked in the top 3 or 5 for the last like 3 years I was in the UFC.
mm-hmm.
So and yeah, so it's not a sort of subject or anything, but like I'm like, dang it, like I wish I could have just like you know not have cut so much weight, but at the same time, like you know I don't know. It was I dug my own grave because I mean I'm you know I didn't really watch my diet when I wasn't fighting,
Mm-hmm.
and so I would barbecue. I would have like every Friday at my gym we would have like a potluck, and so it was like man, the food was my weakness, so I was like, gosh, dang it, so but my body was like roaming around 225, 230.
Yeah,
That's where my body wanted to be. So
yeah. When you fought at 185 and you're cutting all that weight, did you feel pretty depleted? Like, did you see a difference in the practice room versus the cage because of the
oh
weight
yeah,
cut?
yeah. I mean, I had man in at Rain Training Center, I had some of the world's best come to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, world champions and ranked in the top like 3 in the world coming to me. I mean, it was like Rain Trainer Center was like one of the best gyms out there, for MMA. Um, and I felt great. Like I was
Yeah.
going with all those guys, even heavyweights. Was going with heavyweights like Fabricio Verdum, and um, I was going with who else? What else heavyweights? Junior Dos Santos. Like I was going with a lot of great heavyweights, and doing well with them. So um, the Nogueira brothers. So um, and felt great. But then when I had to cut down, I was like, oh man. Like it was like this is time, and then my camp would be dedicated to just cutting weight, which
Mm,
is not good.
yeah. Gotcha. So, I mean, looking back, is that something that you would have? I mean, obviously, people always say like, "Oh, I don't have any regrets." That's
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
not true. Do you think you would have experimented more at a higher weight class?
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, hindsight's 2020,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know, and but regardless, man, like I had a great career, and
Yeah.
um, I have opportunities in my life that stem from me being in the UFC, and you
Sure.
know, I'm grateful for the opportunities I've had and the experiences I've had, and but you learn from them.
Yeah.
You gain wisdom from them. And
Right.
so that's where I'm at now, and I've gained a lot of wisdom and knowledge, and I can share with a lot of fighters and wrestlers and whoever I come into contact with.
Yeah. One thing I noticed about you, and we could look back on our athletic careers all we want, but one thing I don't think that you will have as many regrets about is just like how you carry yourself as a human being. You're a Christian,
Yep.
you're a family man,
Yep.
you're very outspoken about your faith. I don't think I would ever meet, if somebody said a bad thing about you, I would think low about them because of
Appreciate it.
how well, I mean, I don't know you very well. You know my younger brother Cole a lot better than you know me, but
Yeah.
um, you 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 carry yourself in a way that is very admirable, that goes far beyond the cage.
I
Because
appreciate
what you do in the cage, whether you're a champion or not, that kind of, it comes and goes and it dies.
it. Yeah.
But I feel like, and I want you to kind of expand on this for the next few minutes if you can. But I feel like you being a man of faith, we have the same shared faith. We're both Christians, and your kids, all live in a certain way that represents the Munoz name very well, I think. Um,
Mm.
but what you've done as far as your faith, it lasts way longer than what will ever be done in that cage.
Oh, for sure. 100%. And yeah, just to expound on that, I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian, and I love Jesus, man. That's just how I'm gonna live. And I accepted Jesus Christ into my life when I was 13, and I was going in the wrong direction, man. I got jumped. I got jumped when I was 13. I found wrestling when I was 13. I found Jesus when I was 13, and
Mm,
then totally changed my life. So I accepted Jesus Christ and started going to this youth group that played volleyball on the weekends, on Fridays, and then had practices during the summer, throughout the summer, and we would have tournaments every Friday, and they would have a mini message. And then in the eighth grade, I accepted Jesus Christ into my life, and from there, I started going to their youth group, which is called the fellowship group, which was for junior hires. And then when I got into ninth grade, I went to the campus crossroads, which was like all the campuses came together. It was up in Northern California, Vallejo, and just met some incredible people, man. Then I
yeah.
got into a Bible study, first with Francis Aquino. He took me through, what it meant to be a Christian, and then I went to, he ended up going to college, and then I ended up getting another Bible study leader, which was called a discipler at the time, and it was Jeff Cooper, and I stayed with him all throughout until I went to Oklahoma State. But that foundation just laid everything out for me,
Hmm.
and I'm, man, I'm just so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that I was able to meet people, and God just, in Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you future
Sure.
and a hope." Right. So, um, no matter what happened to me when I got jumped in the eighth grade, never thought in a million years I'd ever get jumped. And then finding wrestling, and then finding Jesus at that time, like that, all that had to happen, you know,
Right.
for me to, you know, be who I am today. And so, and I'm grateful for that. Never in a million years do I wish anybody would get jumped.
Sure.
Never, ever. But during that time, man, I was like at my lowest. I was like, man, dang, this is crazy. I got beat, battered, bruised, bloodied, and all for what? You know,
Hmm.
So didn't understand what was going on to me, and then someone introduced me to a youth group and volleyball, and I went out and I played and heard a mini message and accepted Jesus Christ, and changed my life, man. Really
Yeah.
did, and I'm thankful for that. And so, um, and then when I wrestled, um, we had prayers at the end of practices, and we would lead those prayers, um, and I saw God moving wherever I was, and I was leading um, they appointed me to be a leader of the Bible study at the high school ministry on campus. So I did that, and then I ended up, getting into the choir. Like, I'm a choir boy too. So, and then we traveled all around the country to sing at different churches and stuff like that. And
Oh, that's cool.
man, like, you know, my faith is a huge part of who I am.
Yeah.
And I am definitely going to be outspoken about it. That's just who I am, and I'm thankful that that I am a Christian. I'm thankful
Hmm.
that I am, that I have the Bible, the manual to look at, to be able to guide me, and you know to help me in whatever it is that I'm going through in life. So
Yeah.
and God has always put in amazing people in my life. Um, like I moved down to Southern California, and I met some amazing people here. I met Morgan Smith, and then Doug Fields, and then Kenny Luck, and then they brought me to Saddleback Church, and then now we're at Saddleback Church, just serving and ministering to people, and then um, Doug now is over at Mariners, and so I go to Mariners whenever he speaks, and I have great people that are Mariners, and then Kenny Luck went to Crossline, so I'm over at Crossline over at the men's ministry. So it's like I'm meeting a lot of different people, which
Hmm.
it's amazing, man. I just, man, I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have Jesus in my life.
Yeah.
So
Now,
uh,
are you at the main Saddleback campus, Rick Warren's campus?
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, Lake
cool.
Forest, yeah, Lake
Gotcha.
Forest, yeah, that's
Gotcha.
where,
My wife and I, we just drove past there the other day. So
yeah,
I've
it's a
read,
huge campus.
it's huge. It looks like a school
Yeah,
almost.
yeah, it's a huge campus. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah,
No, when you were saying that about the jumping, it reminded me of Joseph when he sees his brothers and he's like, "What you meant for evil, the Lord meant for good to
yeah,
deliver many people."
that's
And
right.
so I feel like even though it sucks that you got jumped, I feel like God had. I mean, he didn't. I don't think he like orchestrated it, but he used it. You
He
know,
did.
and that's
He
amazing.
never, God never wastes. He never wastes a hurt. He never wastes the pain. He
Sure.
never wastes any experience that you go through in your life, whether good or bad,
Yeah.
and he uses it, and he uses it to transform, transform you. And I mean, I'm thankful for that,
Yeah.
I was able to be used, you know, by him in that way, and so I'm going to continue to use my talents, gifts, and abilities to give him the glory, and
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to do that, and you know, and I'm gonna preach the gospel always and use words if I must. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna treat people the way I want to be treated. I'm gonna treat people how Jesus would treat people.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna pray over them. I'm gonna encourage them, edify them. And invite them out to church. I'm just gonna continue to do that through all of that I'm doing for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you doing this. I'm gonna let you go here in a second. I want to ask because this is something that I'm struggling with. How do you? Because being in California, it's very secular. It's very much like people are doing their own thing. God is like the enemy, not a friend by any means.
Mm.
And whether it's political divide, whether it's ideological, how do you how do you handle those situations with people that just are not open to anything of about faith, about a certain topic, whether it's a political issue that is more of a moral issue,
Yeah,
especially being like in California because people don't agree with you. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, if you're going to church, people agree with you more, but when you're
yeah,
your day to day, like you were, on you were a wrestling coach for a high school, like school boards do not agree with you. Like,
yeah.
what's your like? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I am gonna be who I am,
Hmm.
like and I'm gonna be unapologetic for it, you know. And because of the life experiences that I've had in my life, and I'm gonna be who I am, but at the same time, I'm going to, like I said, encourage, edify, and be able to be there for those that I come into contact with, right? So when people are against my beliefs, not there's times where people are, and people know who I am, and people know what I stand for, people know my faith, and you know we're gonna we're gonna agree to disagree sometimes, but I'm gonna keep trying. you
Hmm.
know like
Right.
it's like I'm a wrestling coach. When I want to learn the high crotch and I don't get it the first time, I'm not just gonna quit and not try to execute it in a match. I'm gonna keep trying to do it until I'm successful, right?
Sure.
So, for me, like, I'm just gonna keep living who I am, and what God has done in my life, and keep sharing that, and you know, keep inviting them, and just you know, God can God can transform a heart of stone into a heart of flesh, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's biblical,
Mm-hmm.
and you just keep being who you are, and God will grab a hold of them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, it's not me that's going to change them.
Right.
You know, it's God. It's the Holy Spirit. The
Right.
Holy Spirit has to come upon them and change their heart.
Right.
And so, don't feel like you have that responsibility to do that. Right? You
Sure.
just present the gospel, and then let the Holy Spirit work. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So, um, so yeah, I mean, man, there's so many people that I've never thought that ever would come to Christ.
Yeah.
Because they've experienced that grace, that mercy, that peace,
Sure.
that love, that kindness, that gentleness, self control, all the fruits of the spirit. They've
Right.
experienced that, and they have never experienced that ever in their life. And um, so yeah, I mean, just present the gospel, and the Holy Spirit will work, man. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell people a lot. I'm like, God has called you to be a witness, not his defense attorney.
Yeah, that's
So,
right. That's right.
share
Yeah.
your story, and if you want to do more research and do apologetics, that's great. But at the
Yeah,
end of the day, it's your story of transformation that God's gonna use, not somebody else's through
yep.
you.
That's right.
So
That's right.
awesome, brother. Well, hey, Mark, I appreciate you doing this, man. I enjoyed it. Sorry it took so long to get you on here, but
It's all good.
yeah, if you're ever out in Vegas, let me know, and we'll go grab
Sweet.
lunch. We'll go wrestle around or do something. So,
Okay. How long you been in Vegas?
2.5 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
That's cool.
my wife is from Mexico, so I was in Mexico right before that,
Uh-huh.
and then I moved out here. So it was Oregon, Mexico, then here, um,
Nice. Nice.
and we're probably going to go back for a little bit to Mexico to visit with her family and stuff. So
Awesome, man. That's awesome.
cool,
That's awesome. So
awesome,
cool. Yeah.
brother.
I mean, I used to be in Vegas a lot, but I don't go there very often now, because
Sure,
when I was fighting, I was in Vegas all the time.
right, right,
But yeah,
obviously,
whenever I'm there, man, I'll definitely reach out for sure.
cool, awesome, brother. Have a good one, man. Love you.
Take care. Love you too, man. Take care.